Mr. Lewis.
Question 10, sir.
Singapore adopts a whole-of-government and multi-pronged approach to combat illegal wildlife trade, including the trade of pangolins. First, NParks works closely with Singapore Customs and the Immigration and Checkpoints Authority to identify cargo for further inspection via tip-offs and a risk assessment framework. Risk profiles and indicators are reviewed regularly to ensure that the framework remains robust. This approach has led to 2 successful seizures of nearly 26 tons of pangolin scales in April 2019. Second, our enforcement agencies use technology to screen and check travelers and goods at our checkpoints. For example, ICA uses radiographic scanners and handheld screening devices to ensure that goods that enter Singapore are lawful and legitimate. The member mentioned the multi-mode passive detection system, or MMPDS. MHA and ICA are currently testing a prototype of the MMPDS. Depending on the outcome of this testing, ICA can work with NParks to use this technology to detect the smuggling of illegal wildlife products. We will also continually review our enforcement measures to adopt more effective technology and methods where feasible. Third, we cooperate closely with our regional and international counterparts to combat illegal wildlife trade. For instance, our agencies assess intelligence reports from our partners and work with them to act upon credible and actionable information. Our officers also attend international conferences and workshops to keep up with developments in the field as well as to share best practices. Finally, the government will continue to enforce to reduce supply. Tackling illegal wildlife trade requires the concerted efforts of all stakeholders, including buyers, reducing demand for such products. NParks conducts public awareness campaigns to discourage people from buying illegal wildlife and wildlife products, including pangolins. Members of the public can also do their part to reduce demand by rejecting these products and encouraging others to do the same. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, sir. I thank SPS for the reply. I think one of the problems may be that the chances of detecting this shipment is maybe too low. And so the first clarification is how are we stepping up our detection capabilities at our checkpoint beyond the technologies that you mentioned? Are we looking into further technology? 2, whether MND can work with the local tech companies to develop this kind of new technologies that will help to increase our detection capabilities. And 3, and the last clarification, is whether we can increase our manpower in our enforcement team at NParks now that is tackling wildlife crime issues here in Singapore.
I thank the member for his 3 supplementary questions. On the point he made about further use of technology, all cargo currently passing through our checkpoints are subject to risk assessment. In my earlier reply, I had responded as to how our enforcement agencies currently use radiographic scanners and handheld screening devices to ensure that the goods that enter are lawful and legitimate. And we are continually reviewing our enforcement measures and the types of technologies that are available in the market to further improve our efficiency and efficacy at it. In the second point, he had asked about whether or not we can work with local tech companies. Indeed, we are open to doing so. So if you are aware of the local tech companies and the products that they have, please feel free to let me know of these contacts and our agencies will follow up on them. Lastly, about increasing manpower at NParks, that is something I think the NParks management will look at, and I think annually they will make their revisions or updates as and when necessary. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, SPS, for the reply again. I think one of the concerns is whether this technology is we're able to use this for all the cargo that's coming in at our port. It's a little bit easier at the airport and the land checkpoints, but at the port I think there's difficulty in using some of these scanners when the containers are on board a ship. So is MND looking into this? The point about the manpower, I think, is a very real one. I mean, I worked with your officers on I think it was Saturday or Sunday over the last weekend, and they really are constrained in terms of manpower and responding to these cases in Singapore. So I hope MND can consider increasing the manpower so that we can be able to tackle this trade more effectively.
I thank the member for his 2 points. On the first point, for our air and land checkpoints, all incoming cargo is scanned. And indeed, for our seaports, there is a large volume that we have. So selected cargo that is identified during upstream risk assessment will be scanned. I would like to provide maybe more details on how that is done. We actually have a risk assessment framework that I mentioned earlier. It allows us to target high-risk entities that may be involved in illegal wildlife trade. So when we have the Singapore National Single Window for Trade Declaration known as TradeNet, it receives and processes information declared by traders prior to the arrival or departure of cargo, and our risk profiles are applied to this information to identify shipments for further inspection. So to ensure that our risk profiles remain current and effective, our enforcement agencies actually regularly review and update these risk profiles with information from seizure cases, international reports on illegal wildlife tracking, and in-house seizure analysis. But I take the point that you made, that if there is better technology available that allows us to scan greater volume of cargo more effectively, more efficiently, we'll definitely do so. And that's why we are conducting the pilot on the MMPDS that you have mentioned. But as it is a pilot, we'll have to work with a vendor to see how we can improve the information set, the details, the data that we gather, and see if it is effective. Then we'll look at using it in future. Thank you.